And when you're out there and you're like on the land and the tundra and there's nothing else around you, it's not hard to believe in ghosts, you know. It's yeah, those are special places.
The night country takes us one by one.
I want to tell you, I just saw the fifth episode and I was like, oh my God. Even though I have the last episode, I really not wanted to see it
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I wanted to talk with you, you know, like
yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
so, so in this fifth episode, oh my God, we see this really complex decision making Peter has to make. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and you know, it's a conversation that I'm like having a lot at the minute. For press is why Pete would make that decision. And my first kind of answer is that it's less of a decision and more of a reflex. The thought is not to kill his father, but it's to save Danvers. And it just comes down to in that moment what appeals to him. Sorry, appeal sounds kind of quite light, but what appeals to him in that minute. Whether it's a more sentimental thing from his father or a more rational and logical decision from Danvers.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've heard, but this season of True Detective officially is the most watched season of all the other seasons. So I wanted to know how was it like working with Isa? I mean, they were here in Mexico a few, I don't know, it was like a month ago,
Yeah.
and I had the opportunity to talk with them, but I really wanted like your insight on how was, you know, that directing process and how was
Um,
it?
I would go to the ends of the earth for Issa. She's a fantastic director, a fantastic writer, and I feel very, very lucky to have worked with her. Um, I think there's no world in which like coming onto a season of True Detective or just coming onto a show for HBO, you know, like there's no world in which that is going to be like an easy job that is like there's no pressure.
Yeah.
But I think because Issa is just so wonderful and so collaborative, she's you know she's tough as well. She's tough, you know, and would tell me if like I had done bad work,
Yeah.
which I really respected. She wouldn't fuss around it. Um, but she always kind of she helped me. She wasn't there to work against me. She was there to like get the best out of me. And yeah, I think she's such a brilliant director. And I really hope that I can like work with her again. I don't care how small the role is. Yeah, maybe she shoots something in Mexico. I'd love to do that.
So you were talking about how wasn't, you know, like it's not that easy knowing that you're entering like this whole world that is True Detective, you know? But how familiar were you with the True Detective universe before taking on this role?
Very
Um,
familiar. Yeah.
Very familiar, like you saw all the seasons.
I saw all of them and I've watched season one like 4 times. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was awesome the way Isa, you know, like it feels like a really unique and distinctive season, but it still has like you know, some hints on the, especially on the first season, which
Yes.
I really, really, really love. What do you think about that? Like when you read the script, you think like, did you liked or was
I, I I loved it. I also like. I think you know it's important that there is like a distinction between this season and the seasons that came before, and I think that's obviously like a creative kind of change of direction after Issa has taken over from Nick Pizzolatto, and I think that's really interesting and like a wonderful kind of um, uh, a wonderful way to kind of like restart the project. You know, not restart, but kind of move it forward.
Mhm.
I think there's like two really important things that all True Detective seasons must do. One of them is the setting. whether that's kind of like Louisiana or the city that's kind of looks like it's loosely based on LA, or whether it's Alaska, like the frigid kind of north. And then the second thing is the chemistry between your two lead detectives. And I think that is what really connects us to the seasons that came before. I think they've done it brilliantly, because I think you really get a sense of just the desolation of Alaska. And I think Jodie and Katie's chemistry and work is just brilliant.
But I would love to know your insight on playing a detective. Like, was this your first time playing this kind of role?
Yeah, this was my first time playing anything to do with police. It's weird, isn't it? I think I've never imagined myself as police. I've never wanted to be police or something like that. And you kind of have to ask yourself, I think, when you're playing a policeman, because I think Pryor is a nice guy, and I don't always think that police are the nicest people. But Pryor's a nice guy, so you have to ask yourself, is why did he become police? And I think the big answer to that question was because he needed something to do in a small town and something to stand out. And yeah, that's kind of, you know, I guess that's how you have to ask yourself why you do things.
So of course, the challenges of the filming, I can't even imagine. Can you tell me more about that? Like, you know, the weather and
yeah. I mean, it is difficult filming at like minus 20 degrees on like a frozen lake in kind of, you know, like in pitch black, you know, like middle of the night. I think the challenges, the worst of it was not faced by us as cast. You know, I think that's important to say, is that when we weren't working, you know, one of the lovely crew would kind of just shepherd us into a trailer or something, and we could warm up and we'd have tea and coffee and stuff. The real people who had to deal with those challenges, and they dealt with it so well, are the crew and you know, the people kind of filming, you know, actually making the magic happen. And, you know, like equipment would sink into ice. We would be like, the snow was just so thick that we couldn't, like, we were like, we can't film this or whatever. And yeah, they just had to deal with that. They were outside for all of those hours in the dark and cold. And yeah, that's kind of, yeah, I guess that was the challenge, but they really just dealt with it.
So this season has really complex and layered narratives, and it has this mystic and spiritual approach, I think, more than any other season. I wanted to know, like, do you believe in those stuff?
I didn't, but now I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been able to visit. I haven't been to Alaska. I would love to go one day, but I did manage to go to the Canadian Arctic in a similar community. It's quite small and quite isolated, and it's probably like 60% indigenous. And when you're out there and you're like on the land and the tundra and there's nothing else around you, it's not hard to believe in ghosts. You know, it's yeah, those are special places. And I think it requires going to visit them to make sense of it all, you know.